Good evening and welcome to World Today, a brand new show on DD India, from which we art your window to the world. I'm Amrit Pal Singh. We tell you what happened around the globe in the day just gone by. Japan has a new prime minister. It was an easy vote because his party has commands a majority in parliament. What else happened around the world? We'll take a look at that. But first up, the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Japan gets a new Prime Minister. Fumio Kishida, officially elected as the country's 100th Prime Minister after winning a majority of votes in both houses of Parliament. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates him, says look forward to working to further strengthen the special strategic and global partnership and advance peace and prosperity in our region and beyond. UK nationals arriving in India will now have to undergo mandatory 10-day quarantine. Move comes weeks after the UK imposed similar restrictions on Indian travellers. Pre-departure RT-PCR test within 72 hours, an RT-PCR test on arrival at the airport, and an RT-PCR test on day 8 after arrival is also mandatory. Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla calls on Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapakse, delivers remarks at the inauguration of the Indian Development Cooperation Projects at Temple Trees in Colombo. Jointly with the Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka, inaugurates 4 projects in housing and education. American scientists David Julius and Adam win the 2021 Nobel Prize in Medicine for the discoveries of receptors for temperature and touch. Adam Pautin used pressure-sensitive cells to discover a novel class of sensors that responds to mechanical stimuli in the skin and internal organs. Trading in the shares of heavily indebted China, Evergrande was suspended with liabilities stretching into hundreds of billions of dollars. Evergrande sparked concerns its woes could spread through the financial system and reverberate around the world. So those are the headlines. Let's begin with the big news we're tracking at this hour. And UK nationals arriving in India will now have to undergo mandatory 10-day quarantine weeks after the United Kingdom imposed similar restrictions on Indian travellers to the United Kingdom. All UK nationals arriving in India from the United Kingdom, irrespective of their vaccination status, will have to undergo a mandatory quarantine at home or in the destination address for 10 days after arrival in India. A pre-departure COVID-19 RT-PCR test within 72 hours before travel, an RT-PCR test on arrival at the airport, and an RT-PCR test on day 8 after arrival is also mandatory. The British travel rules also come into effect from today. And for more on that story, I'm joined by Prabhu Dayal, a former senior diplomat, to discuss what the implications of this are. Ambassador Dayal, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Ambassador Dayal, first of all, let me understand from you that why did matters come to such a head while on the face of it, it looks like a procedural issue?
Well, Amrit, I think everyone knew that reciprocity was going to be enforced. India has taken whatever action it has taken as it is within its rights. India is within its right to take reciprocal measures against the UK's discriminatory move to recognize AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, but not Covishield if the issue is not resolved. You know, AstraZeneca is the parent company for Covishield, and AstraZeneca vaccines are recognized by the United Kingdom. Recently, the United Kingdom added a number of countries to the list from where travelers could come in if they were vaccinated with AstraZeneca. So it was baffling why India was not included, particularly when travelers had been vaccinated with Covishield, which is AstraZeneca manufactured under license here in India. So India had absolutely no option but to enforce reciprocity. Reciprocity is a norm in diplomatic conduct. You treat a country in exactly the same way as it treats you. Now, of course, travelers from the UK are going to be adversely affected. They will have to take on the hardship which will follow because of the new measures coming in from today. But then what option did India have? So I think the United Kingdom should again review the matter and look at afresh at everything and take a decision which would be in light of the facts which are already available with it, and which should clearly point to its reviewing this policy towards vaccinated persons, particularly those who have taken the Covishield vaccine.
Well, Ambassador Dayal, one understands the principle of reciprocity. One understands why India did a tit for tat. As you say, it's a diplomatic norm. You treat other countries how they treat you. So it's well accepted practice in diplomacy, or I mean, that's an accepted practice how countries interact with each other. But why, in your view, is the United Kingdom so adamant on something their own university, the Oxford University and AstraZeneca, first came up with? Then it's only being manufactured, as you say, under license by the Serum Institute of India. So in a sense, it's the same vaccine as the British vaccine. So why are they so adamant of not recognizing them while they're recognizing, for as you say, other countries, including Australia, where they've given permission that, all right, come in, you'll not be on the red list?
Well, frankly, I'm as baffled as you are. I really don't know why they took this decision in the first place, to exclude India from the list of countries from where travelers would be allowed to enter the United Kingdom if they were vaccinated with Covishield or AstraZeneca. Now, the problem is that reviewing a bad decision is awkward. It takes time. If the United Kingdom were to immediately review its decision, then it would appear very clearly that it had taken a wrong decision. So it will take the other route, that it will say that we are re-examining the facts, we are taking into account new facts which are now available with us, etc., etc. But I think that the decision to review should come during the next few days, because the present state of affairs is a very unwelcome one for travelers going from India to the United Kingdom or from travelers coming from the United Kingdom.
That's true, Ambassador.
Now, let me mention
yes,
that
please.
the original decision was very strange. They said, yes, AstraZeneca is recognized, Covishield is recognized, but we have some problems with the Indian vaccination certificate. They never made it clear what those problems were. I think they were just fudging.
Okay. No, but Ambassador, the Indians were talking to the British, right? Our diplomats were talking, were engaging with them. Their travel norms also, or restrictions also come into effect from today itself. So in the run-up to all this, and also the Foreign Secretary had made it amply clear. In fact, he's on record saying before the reciprocity decision was implemented that, you know, this would kick in. So why weren't the diplomats, when they sit and negotiate and discuss, why weren't, say, the Indians able to explain to the English, or the English not able to understand from the Indians that, well, this is something which will have to be reviewed later? Why bring matters to a head and then do a backtracking on that? That becomes embarrassing for the both countries.
Well, you know, Amritpal, very often in diplomacy we find the wisdom of that old saying, you can take a horse to the river, but you can't make it drink. I'm sure that our side made it amply clear to the British what the consequences of their decision were going to be. I'm also sure that we presented the facts of the case very clearly and showed to them that our vaccination certificates were absolutely bona fide and that the entire process was conceived and executed in a totally professional manner. So, I only can think that once the British had taken a wrong decision, it was a bit of a problem for them. It was an awkward situation how to take back the decision. So maybe they have resorted to the course of action, which means letting some time pass before they will come up with reasons why they are renewing the decision. But I think that the British decision was ill-conceived in the first place, and it should never have been taken, particularly because India had made the circumstances of the entire vaccination process in our country so amply clear.
Ambassador, where does the story go from here? Now that this travel ban, both countries have restrictions, both countries have put in place, are you categorically saying that you think that it's a matter of days that it will have to be resolved?
Well, India will take back the decision, review its decision, and allow British travelers who have been vaccinated with AstraZeneca after Britain withdraws. Because we have retaliated for the action which they had taken.
Okay.
So now it's up to the United Kingdom to review its decision. And I'm sure that sanity will prevail. I'm sure that it will realize that its decision to exclude India from the list of countries from where travelers would be permitted into the United Kingdom, that original decision was wrong per se. And therefore, it should, in the interest of bilateral relations, review its decision. So for these reasons, I think that the United Kingdom will review its decision, because there is no other way out. If it continues to enforce its decision, then India will also be compelled to enforce reciprocity. And where do we go from there? It's a very unsavory set of circumstances which have resulted from the decision of the United Kingdom. And it's up to the UK authorities to change the course of things.
Okay. Ambassador, let me broaden this a bit. You know, let me take this at the multilateral level. The WHO hasn't given approval for Covaxin, the other vaccine which is used in India as of now, apart from Covishield. Where is the world heading towards? The Chinese say, well, we'll not open our borders for anyone who's not taken their vaccines, the Sinopharma, etc. Where is the world heading towards? Are we going to see in the near future acceptability of travel, of vaccination certificates, or some sort of, a unified approach to it, some sort of recognition of a pool of certification? What do you think will the world head towards?
Well, Amritpal, you have asked me at least 3 questions.
Okay.
So I will respond to them one by one. Your first question about the WHO certification for Covaxin. Now, I am not from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and I'm not part of the government of India. But what I can make out from media reports is that WHO is going to accord recognition to Covaxin, and that this will happen in a reasonable amount of time. That is to say, I cannot predict how quickly, but from what I understand, this recognition is going to be accorded quite soon. Secondly, your question about the Chinese Act. Well, that's political. If the Chinese are saying that they will only permit travelers to come in if they have been vaccinated with the Chinese vaccines, it's an entirely political decision. And are they going to say that WHO-approved vaccines are not acceptable to them? I think they are driving themselves into a corner. Thirdly, your question, where is the world heading? I think in this particular situation, there are two clear-cut zones. First, the health-related zone. People are careful. People are careful about not letting in unvaccinated people. And at the same time, there is a certain degree of caution which is going to be exercised in regard to non-WHO approved vaccines. But certainly, as matters settle down, the world will move towards easing of restrictions, because it will be realized that these vaccines which are being approved by WHO do work. So in other words, not only will Covishield get recognition and travelers who have been vaccinated with Covishield be allowed to move around and travel to other countries, but I expect the same will happen to travelers who have been vaccinated with Covaxin also.
All right. Ambassador Prabhudyal, we'll have to leave it there. Many thanks for joining us and sharing your insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And let's move on to our other big story, the Japanese story. Japan has a new Prime Minister. Fumio Kishida unveiled his government on Monday, mixing holdovers with newcomers after Japanese lawmakers voted him to be the new leader of the world's third largest economy. Kishida easily won Monday's vote in Parliament, approving him as Prime Minister thanks to the party's commanding majority in Parliament.
Japan's Fumio Kishida was officially elected as Japan's 100th Prime Minister on Monday after winning a majority of votes in both the houses of the parliament. He exchanged fist bumps with lawmakers. Kishida unveiled a cabinet lineup featuring stalwarts of the ruling party and allies of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and ex-Finance Minister Taro Aso. Of the 20 posts, 13 were filled by people with no prior cabinet experience, in line with Kishida's pledge to give chances to new people, but the majority of heavyweight jobs went to allies of Abe or outgoing Finance Minister Taro Aso. Kishida, a former foreign minister with an image as a low-key consensus builder, was chosen last week to lead the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, beating 3 other contenders to take the post and ultimately, based on the party's majority in parliament, the premiership. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted saying, "Congratulations and best wishes to the new Prime Minister of Japan, His Excellency Kishida Fumio. I look forward to working with him to further strengthen the special, strategic and global partnership and advance peace and prosperity in our region and beyond." According to public broadcaster, Kishida is all set to dissolve the body next week and call an election on 31st of October. This move is regarded as a surprise, even though polls was due to take place by 28th of November as Parliament's term ends on 21st of October. World Today Desk, TT India.
The two Koreas, that's North Korea and South Korea, today restored their hotlines that the North severed months ago, with Pyongyang urging Seoul to step up efforts to improve relations after criticizing what it called double standards over weapons development. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had expressed his willingness last week to reactivate the hotlines, which the North cut off in early August in protest against the joint South Korea-US military exercises, just days after reopening them for the first time in a year.
In a major move, North Korea has restored communication lines with the South months after it cut a cross-border hotline. The two Koreas on Monday restored their hotlines that the North severed months ago. Pyongyang urged Seoul to step up efforts to improve relations. The move comes days after the country's leader Kim Jong-un said he was willing to restore communication as a conditional olive branch. Kim made the remarks on September 29th at the parliament. Kim expressed his willingness to reconnect inter-Korean hotlines starting from October, but criticized the South's delusion over what it calls military provocations from the North. North Korea severed the hotlines in early August in protest against joint South Korea-US military drills, just days after reopening them for the first time in a year. Communication hotlines between the two sides have been cut and restored several times. How long this communication will last remains to be seen. World Today Desk, DD India.
We've all been talking about the ill effects of climate change. And even as world leaders plan to meet at COP26 in Glasgow in the United Kingdom to chase an elusive consensus on climate change, how to deal with it, it continues to play havoc and disrupt lives. Take a look at this report.
It has been 15 days since Spain's Vieja volcano first erupted, but no respite. Lava continues to flow, destroying whatever is coming in its way. La Palma's volcano threw lava and rocks into the air as the eruption entered its 15th day on Monday. Red-hot lava was seen flowing down the sides of the volcano, which gained momentum after one of its sides collapsed. According to the local media reports, the situation worsened on Sunday when the north side of the volcano collapsed, causing a faster flow of lava. The Vieja volcano has destroyed more than 900 buildings, forcing evacuations of about 6,000 people from the island, which is home to some 83,000 people. As situation remains grim, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has pledged 206 million euros to help the island of La Palma recover from the tragedy. The money, he said, will be used to assist in areas such as infrastructure construction, water supply, employment, agriculture and tourism. The financial package is the second stage of a plan approved last week. The first stage saw the government announce an aid of 10.5 million euros for the immediate assistance of those who had lost their homes. Extreme weather conditions are also battering other parts of the world. In Oman and Iran, Cyclone Shaheen is wreaking havoc. Cyclone Shaheen struck parts of their coastlines on Sunday, killing 9 people in total. 2 people died in a landslide and a child in flash flooding in Oman. National Committee for Emergency Management said rescue teams pulled the bodies of 2 Asian workers from their home hit by a landslide in the Ruzail industrial area of Muscat province. Flights were suspended and schools were closed as Oman declared a 2-day national holiday due to the adverse climatic conditions. In Iran, 6 people were killed in Chabahar port in the southeastern province of Sistan, Balochistan. Provincial Governor Hossein Modarres Khiabani said infrastructure including electrical facilities and roads was damaged. The eye of the storm was 220 kilometers off the coast of the province. United Arab Emirates was also on high alert. In Saudi Arabia, weather warnings have been issued for several regions across the country, starting from today till Friday. In China too, torrential rains lashed parts of Liaoning province, causing floods in residential areas, inundating roads, trapping dwellers and leading to traffic disruptions. The unprecedented heavy rains hit several cities in the province, registering record rainfall for the period of a year, trapping many in residential buildings. Climate change concerns all. The extreme weather conditions is in evidence as well as a warning for us to take strong and substantial actions. World Today Desk, DD India.
And talking about California, first the forest fires and now an oil slick. The mayor of Huntington Beach, a southern Californian coastal town that was hit over the weekend with oil spill, said that those responsible for the environmental disaster must be held accountable. Mayor Kim Carr told reporters that the city was already looking at measures right now to make sure that they are held accountable for the large oil spill that began washing ashore at Huntington Beach after an oil rig pipeline was breached.
These are the visuals of a large oil spill off the California coast over the weekend, described as an environmental catastrophe by the mayor of Huntington Beach. The breach of an oil rig pipeline left dead fish and birds strewn on the sand and offshore wetlands, clogged with oil. The spill was caused by a breach connected to the Ellie oil rig and stretch from the Huntington Beach Pier down to Newport Beach, a stretch of coast popular with surfers and sunbathers. The oil rig is operated by Beta Offshore, a California subsidiary of Houston-based Amplify Energy Corporation. An estimated 126,000 gallons or 3,000 barrels had spread into an oil slick covering about 13 square miles of the Pacific Ocean since it was first reported on Saturday morning. On Sunday, the Orange County Supervisor Catherine Foley said the oil had infiltrated the Talbot Marsh, a large ecological reserve causing significant damage. She added it's so important that we avoid the breaches. Amplify Energy CEO Martin Wiltshire said at a press conference in Long Beach that the pipeline had now been shut off and the remaining oil suctioned out. He said divers were still trying to determine where and why the spill occurred.
Fully committed to being out here until this incident is fully concluded. We are working collaboratively with the Coast Guard, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, numerous state agencies, and the local communities to help with all of the recovery efforts. We currently have divers on location at the potential source site. We are investigating the source and potential cause of this incident. Like I said, we will continue to work with Unified Command to ensure that this recovery effort is concluded as quickly as possible. Let me just say also, our employees live and work in these communities, and we're all deeply impacted and concerned about the impact on not just the environment, but the fish and wildlife as well. We will do everything in our power to ensure that this is recovered as quickly as possible, and we won't be done until this is concluded.
Beaches were closed to swimming and a local air show was cancelled, although some people were undeterred from setting up chairs on the beach to enjoy the sunny Sunday or strolling along the pier. The mayor of Huntington Beach, a Southern California coastal town that was hit over the weekend with a major offshore oil spill, said those responsible for the environmental disaster must be held accountable.
As most of you know, we are in the midst of a potential ecological disaster here in Huntington Beach, and as the exhibits and pictures here illustrate, the oil spill has significantly impacted our community. At our last update, we were informed that more than 3,000 barrels of oil, or 126,000 gallons, have been spilled into the ocean located just off of the Huntington Beach coast and our coastal neighbors. Our wetlands are being degraded and portions of our coastline are now covered in oil. I want to reassure everyone that the overall cleanup effort is being expertly coordinated right now.
The U.S. Coast Guard, working with local and state agencies, flew airplanes to assess the spill and had hired contractors to clean it up. Officials say they were investigating the cause of the spill and the type of oil involved. World Today Desk, DD India.
And Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, who is on a visit to Sri Lanka, called on Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapakse. They had a productive discussion on further consolidating the multifaceted India-Sri Lanka partnership. The Foreign Secretary said he had a very productive meeting with the Sri Lankan Prime Minister. And the Foreign Secretary also jointly inaugurated 4 projects in housing and education sectors along with his Sri Lankan counterpart Professor G.L. Perez. He also delivered his remarks at the inauguration of the Indian Development Cooperation projects at Temple Trees in Colombo. The Foreign Secretary said in the past 1 year, India has buttressed its credentials of being a net security provider and the first responder in HADR situations in the wider Indian Ocean region. He added that India was happy to respond to Sri Lanka's requests in recent cases of fire and marine pollution in its waters. The Indian Navy also deployed its assets for rapid delivery of medical-grade oxygen to Sri Lanka in August to deal with its COVID situation. He also expressed hope in the coming months the two sides will be able to complete some of the remaining projects like the Dambulla cold storage plant, the trilingual school at Polon Nuruva, and the school of Kandian dancing at Palikale, whose progress had been impeded by the restrictions imposed by COVID-19 and the attendant administrative challenges. And referring to his visit to Trincomalee and Jaffna, the Foreign Secretary said that these places vividly recount the shared cultural heritage of the two countries and the strong development partnership between them. He said the two countries have seen fruition of a number of people-centric projects in recent years. Moving on, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell spoke about Afghanistan situation, which is experiencing a serious humanitarian crisis. He said the Taliban government's behavior was not very encouraging, and any economic collapse in Afghanistan would raise the risk of terrorism and other threats. The EU diplomat, who is in Riyadh following visits to Qatar and the UAE, said he briefed his partners on the prospects of restarting nuclear talks and exchanged views with Saudi officials on Yemen and Afghanistan. The EU has increased its humanitarian aid to Afghanistan since the Taliban took power, but halted development assistance. Such move has also been taken by other countries and the World Bank. Meanwhile, survivors of a deadly blast outside the mosque in Kabul were treated at a hospital in Afghanistan's capital on Sunday evening. Several civilians were killed in the explosion, which took place as they were holding prayers. The blast took place on a main road near the entrance of the Eidgah Mosque. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack. Local media quoted the Ministry of Interior as saying 8 persons had been killed and 20 wounded. Islamic State groups, which remain opposed to the Taliban, have continued to operate in Afghanistan, posing a potentially serious threat to the stability of the Central Asian country. Meanwhile, a fifth chartered flight carrying civilians from Afghanistan to Qatar left Kabul on Sunday with 235 passengers, most of them Afghan citizens. The city's airport is slowly returning to normalcy after a virtual shutdown when it was damaged in the evacuations as the Taliban took over the country. Citizens from several other states were also on the flight to Qatar. The passengers will be housed in a compound in Qatar that's hosting evacuees from Afghanistan until they depart to their final destinations. Qatar has emerged as a key interlocutor between the West and the Taliban. The Gulf state is a close U.S. ally, hosting the largest American military base in West Asia, and has hosted a Taliban political office since 2013. Since taking power, the Taliban have grappled with severe economic crisis and have faced pressure on issues ranging from girls' education to allegations of reprisals against former officials and others associated with the previous governments of Ashraf Ghani and even Hamid Karzai. Well, American scientists David Julius and Ardem Petapauchian won the 2020 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for their discoveries of receptors for temperature and touch. The first of the 2021 Nobel Prizes kicked off the week of announcements of the most coveted award. David Julius utilized capsaicin and a pungent compound from chili peppers that induced burning sensation to identify a sensor in the nerve endings of the skin that respond to heat. Ardem used pressure-sensitive cells to discover a novel class of sensors that respond to mechanical stimuli in the skin and internal organs. The announcement was made by a panel at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. Bahamian and Cuban authorities have intercepted hundreds of Haitians sailing to the United States and will send them back to Haiti. According to Cuban television, more than 400 Haitian migrants have arrived via boat on the coasts of eastern and central provinces in recent weeks as they try to reach Florida. Cuba's government said it would be repatriating the migrants to Haiti. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force said it had deployed patrol vessels to the southeast Bahamas to defend against a migrant surge from Haiti, the poorest country in the Americas, which is grappling with a deepening humanitarian and political crisis. The vessels had intercepted more than 1,000 Haitians over the past 10 days, as per the defense forces. Around 30,000 Haitians arrived at the U.S.-Mexico border in recent weeks, seeking to claim asylum in the United States. U.S. authorities have expelled around 5,000 back to Haiti. Trading in shares of heavily indebted China Evergrande were suspended on Monday, days after some bondholders said that the property developer at the center of jitters over China's financial system had missed a second key bond interest payment. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange said shares of its unit Evergrande Property Services Group were also suspended. The boss didn't say why trading in the company's stock had been halted, and it was unclear who had initiated the suspension. With liabilities stretching into hundreds of billions of dollars, equal to 2% of China's GDP, Evergrande has sparked concerns its woes could spread through the financial system and reverberate around the world. Initial worries have eased somewhat after China's central bank vowed to protect home buyers' interests. Shares in Evergrande have plunged to 80% so far in this year, while its property services unit has dropped 43% as the group scrambles to raise funds to pay its many lenders and suppliers. And let's now take a look at the COVID-19 numbers from across the globe. More than 23 crore 58 lakh people across the world so far have tested positive for COVID-19, while over 21 crore 26 lakh patients have recovered from the virus. The deadly virus has claimed lives of more than 48 lakh 17,000 people worldwide. The United States remains the worst affected country by COVID-19. The nation is witnessing spike in daily new cases due to the Delta variant of the virus. More than 4 crore 45 lakh people have been infected in the United States by COVID-19. Over 7 lakh 19,000 people in the country have lost their lives to the virus. Air New Zealand, the flag carrier airline of New Zealand, has said on Sunday it will require passengers on its international flights to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 in what is one of the world's strictest policies for travelers. New Zealand plans to reopen its international borders, which have been closed since March 2020, to anyone who's not a New Zealand citizen early next year. Air New Zealand will implement the vaccination policy from February 1st. In September, Qantas, Australia's largest airline, also said it will require that all passengers on the international flights are to be vaccinated, becoming one of the first airlines in the world to require proof of inoculation for everyone on board. Malaysia's government will be studying the current COVID-19 situation in the country before deciding on organizing a Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition and Defence Services Asia exhibitions. The ministry would hold discussions with industries and interested companies from abroad to ensure their involvement for the success of both exhibitions. Lima would not be held this year, even though there was a demand to hold it virtually, and the decision to hold is still to hold Lima 2023. DSA, which was scheduled to be held in August 2020, was postponed for almost 2 years to a new date from 28 to 31st March 2022. Looking at sports now, Manchester City came from behind twice to earn a 2-2 draw with Liverpool in a breathless and pulsating Premier League encounter at Anfield. All 4 goals came in a second half packed with high quality, high tempo, end-to-end football that makes Premier League so popular globally. Lop's side needed a spark to return to at least something like their normal selves, and it was the talisman Salah who provided it with a virtuoso second half performance. The Egyptian first of all showed his class to set up main for a goal that was against the overall run of play, but was a result of Liverpool increasing the pace at the start of the second half. Salah's run and pass was sheer perfection, and his attacking partner gratefully accepted the invitation to finish it in style. And after the excellent Foden drew City level, Salah scored a goal that will live long in the memory as he twisted and turned between a host of City defenders before lashing an unstoppable finish past Edison. It was a goal worthy of winning any match, but in reality Liverpool could not complain at only getting a point as they struggled to exert their authority. Salah's masterclass, however, showed once again that he truly belongs among the game's elite. And Tottenham ended their three-game Premier League losing streak with a hard-fought, morale-boosting 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg gave Spurs a deserved half-time lead with the breakthrough goal before the half-hour mark by Aston Villa, levelled on 67 minutes through Ollie Watkins' close-range finish. But the parity lasted just 4 minutes as Heung-min Son, the creator of Højbjerg's opener, capped a memorable performance by laying on the winning goal. His driven cross was turned into his own net by Matt Targett while under pressure from Lucas Moura. Tottenham's first league victory since August 29th eases the pressure on under-fire manager Nuno Espirito Santo, whose side halted Villa's two-game winning run as they leapfrogged them up to the 8th in the table. And in table tennis, Indian men's doubles team Sharat Kamal and Satya Ganasekharan bagged the men's doubles bronze medal in Asian Table Tennis Championship. The Indian duo went down WR14 Japanese pair Yukiya Uda and Shunsuke Togami by 0-3 in the semi-finals. Earlier, the Indian men's table tennis team comprising of Chanta Sharat Kamal and Satya Ganasekharan and Harmeet Desai enhanced its reputation with a bronze medal in the Asian Table Tennis Championships in Doha. India had won the men's team bronze at the Asian Games in Jakarta in 2018 and bronze in the Asian Championships cement their reputation among the top 3 in the continent. Indian Super League side FC Goa claimed their maiden Durand Cup football tournament title after a 1-0 win over local giants Mohammedan Sporting in the summit clash on Sunday. Captain Uduardo Bedia scored an all-important goal from a set piece in the 105th minute after the final match went into extra time in front of 34,000 spectators at the Vivekanand Yuba Bharti Kriyangan. The Durand Cup crown was also marked FC Goa coach Juan Fernando Fenol's first ever trophy on Indian soil. FC Goa's Romario had the best chance of half when Mohammedan defence was completely foxed by a cross from Sanson Pereira from the left flank, but Romario sent the shot wide of the goal post. The second half saw FC Goa dominating possession, but the same wasn't resulting in concrete chances as they were losing the ball far too easily in the final third. In the injury time, Radim Lang came close to scoring the first goal, but the angle was too steep and the ball went across the face of the goal. With scores tied at 0-0 at the end of the regulation time, the final went into extra time. As the first half of the extra time was looking like goalless, yet again Bedia delivered for his side. The FC Goa captain scored from a fantastic free kick awarded just outside Mohammedan box in the 105th minute owing to a foul by Milan Singh. FC Goa got richer by 40 lakh rupees for winning the title, while Mohammedan Sporting received 20 lakh rupees. The losing semi-finalists FC Bangalore and United and Bangalore FC got 5 lakh rupees each. And let's now take a look at what else made news around the globe.
A private plane crashed into an empty building on the outskirts of Milan, northern Italy on Sunday, killing all 8 people on board, according to police. The aeroplane, which had taken off from Milan's Linate City airport, was heading for the island of Sardinia. The crash occurred just outside a suburban metro station. People in the area could hear a blast when the plane collided with the 2-story building, which was empty at the time as it was being renovated. Witnesses said several vehicles parked along the street caught fire, but no other casualties reported. South Korea marked its 73rd Armed Forces Day with massive air and sea drills. The ceremony came hours after North Korea said it had fired a newly developed anti-aircraft missile a day earlier. The ceremony was attended by President Moon Jae-in. At the ceremony, Moon said that the government and the military will sternly respond to any action threatening our people's lives and safety. Moon made the comments during a speech he delivered from the South Korean helicopter carrier Morado just off the coast of the eastern city of Pohang. Demonstrators broke into an event of Mexican President López Obrador. Videos posted on social networks and local media showed dozens of people pushing their way through the event in Puebla, where the president and officials were reporting on the delivery of aid to victims. The demonstrators included the victim of Hurricane Grace in Mexico. In August, Grace hit the Gulf of Mexico coast as a powerful Category 3 hurricane caused 8 deaths and damage in several states in the east and center of the country. Brazilian demonstrators once again gathered in several state capitals to protest against the federal government and called for the impeachment of President Jair Bolsonaro. Holding signs reading "Out with Bolsonaro," thousands of Sao Paulo residents marched down the megacity's iconic Paulista Avenue in opposition to the government. In addition to criticizing right-wing Bolsonaro and his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, demonstrators also protested inflation and high fuel prices. According to the organizers, the demonstrations took place in more than 200 cities across the country. World Today Desk, DD India.
Meanwhile, the Bangladesh government has imposed a ban on hilsa fish catching, selling, transporting and hoarding for the next 22 days. From Monday midnight, that's tonight midnight, to protect hilsa for ensuring safe breeding. The restriction remains effective from 4th of October till the 25th of October. A combined special drive launched by the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock special operations are being conducted in 38 districts of the country. Districts and Upazila administration, local fisheries department, Bangladesh Police, the Rapid Action Battalion, Bangladesh Navy, Bangladesh Air Force, Bangladesh Coast Guard, Bangladesh Ansar and VDP have jointly conducted the operation. During the implementation of the drive, all types of fishing, including hilsa, are being stopped in rivers, estuaries and seas of 20 districts. And time now for our segment Beyond the Headlines.
Countries are easing restrictions worldwide and opening their doors to visitors. As normality returns, people have started to enjoy their life again. In New Mexico's Albuquerque, hundreds of giant hot air balloons launched into the skies for the first time in 2 years as the city's Balloon Fiesta returned following a COVID hiatus. The Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta kicked off its 49th annual festival. The event's website says that 588 hot air balloons will take part and that nearly 900,000 visitors are expected. This year's 9-day balloon extravaganza features balloon races, nighttime balloon launches, and a variety of events, including musical performances and a chainsaw carving exhibition. Indonesia is keen to send a message about the world's worsening ocean plastics crisis. For that, the environmentalists have created a museum made entirely from plastics to convince people to rethink about their habits and say no to single-use bags and bottles. The outdoor exhibition in the town of Gresik in East Java took 3 months to assemble. From bottles and bags to sachets and straws, the centerpiece is made up of more than 10,000 plastic-based items, all collected from polluted rivers and beaches. The centerpiece, a statue called Dewi Sri, which means a goddess of prosperity, widely worshipped by the Javanese. Turkey's newest park is an underwater museum of 14 shipwrecks that lie beneath the waves of the Dardanelles Strait, a glimpse into the fierce battles between Ottoman and Allied forces in World War I. The Gallipoli Historic Underwater Park opened 106 years after Ottoman and Allied German forces halted an invasion by British, French, Australian and New Zealand troops. A two-part version of the famed Girl with Balloon painting by British street artist Banksy is expected to fetch between 2.5 and 3.5 million pounds when it goes under the hammer for the first time at Christie's auction in London later this month. The rare edition, one of the 25 created by Banksy in 2005, features a young girl in one painting and her heart-shaped balloon in another. The Girl with Balloon will be part of Christie's 20th and 21st century evening sale, including Thinking Italian, held in London on October 15th. In Scotland, 81-year-old Nick Gardner is challenging many half his age to climb all 282 of Scotland's Munros or mountains above 3,000 feet in 1,200 days. Gardner is doing it to raise money for charities helping those with Alzheimer's and osteoporosis in honor of his wife Janet, who is suffering from both and needs a 24-hour care. Picking up social media skills with help of his family, he records his progress on Facebook and Instagram. Many of the messages on his fundraising webpage, where he has raised more than £30,000 of a £40,000 target, are from people he has met on the mountainside. Ropes, a blackened bee smoker, and a deep appreciation for the ancient trade of wild bee hunting. This was the inheritance passed down to Idar Yagafarov from his grandfather. In love with his profession, Yagafarov is now facing difficulties in finding the locations of bees in the forests. Most of the hunters have abandoned collecting honey from the forest, due to which the locations of many hives were lost, as well as techniques to harvest them. Living in Novo Munasipovo, Yagafarov has now made his life's mission to preserve the ancient art of bee hunting. Singaporeans are turning to nature adventures at home during the pandemic, and those along the intertidal zone in particular are gaining interest. Tourism operators say that demand has risen by as much as 3 times for guided walks along this expanse of sand that's accessible only when tides recede. At Changi Beach, people are in hope of seeing animals that appear only when the tide is out. The adventure has seen nearly 60% rise in demand as compared to pre-pandemic times. World Today Desk, DD India.
And let's now take a look at all the events that took place in history on this day.
On this day in the year 1957, the Soviet Union became the first nation in space after launching the Sputnik 1 satellite into the orbit 500 miles above the Earth. In 2001, on this day, a Russian Sibir Airlines Tu-154 carrying up to 78 passengers and crew on a flight from Israel was accidentally shot down during Ukrainian missile exercises over the Black Sea. On this day in the year 2002, Nepal's King Gyanendra dismissed Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and took over the government. In 2003, on this day, a Palestinian suicide bomber killed 23 people in a popular restaurant in the northern Israeli city of Haifa. On this day in 2004, US scientists Frank Wilczek, David Cross and David Pulitzer won the Nobel Physics Prize for explaining how the basic building blocks of nature, quarks, interact. In 2005, on this day, Turkey opened membership negotiations with the European Union, 42 years after first being given the prospect of membership in the wealthy bloc. World Today Desk, DD India.
And with the easing of restrictions and with people beginning to enjoy their life again, in New Mexico's Albuquerque, hundreds of giant hot air balloons were launched into the skies for the first time in 2 years as the city's balloon fiesta returned following a COVID hiatus. The International Balloon Fiesta kicked off its 49th annual festival. We leave you with the glimpses of the festival. Take a look and enjoy this. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.
Thank you.